You already have an image. When you hear the word Overman, Übermensch, something appears, strong, certain, untouchable, the person who has it figured out, the one who doesn't flinch, the one who walks into any room and doesn't need it to go a certain way. Hold that image for a moment. Notice how specific it is. Notice how quickly it arrived. Notice that it looks nothing like you, and that you already knew that before I said it. We're going to take it apart. Nietzsche didn't create the Overman as a destination. He created it as a direction, a pressure, a question aimed at the present moment. Not, are you there yet? But, which way are you facing? Most people hear Overman and immediately begin measuring. Am I close? Am I far? Am I the type of person who could become that? The measuring is the cage. The measuring never ends, and it was never going to tell you anything real. We are not going to tell you how to become the Overman. We're going to do something more specific than that. We're going to look at the structure of your attention, where it goes when you're about to say something, where it goes when you're deciding whether to act, where it goes in the silence after someone sees you. Because the Overman isn't a person, it's what's left when you stop performing for an audience that only exists in your head. And it turns out that audience is in the room with you right now. It has been for a very long time. The version that doesn't exist. Part 1. The misunderstanding. The Overman you're imagining doesn't exist. Not because Nietzsche was wrong, because the image itself is the thing Nietzsche was arguing against. The perfectly composed person. The one who never doubts. The one who has transcended the messy, uncomfortable, unoptimizable parts of being human. That's not the Overman. That's the last man with better posture. The last man wants certainty, wants the cage to be comfortable, wants to arrive somewhere safe and stop moving. The Overman is something else entirely, something much less cinematic, something you won't find on a motivational account. The Overman isn't the person at the top of the mountain. The Overman is the one who stopped needing the mountain to mean something to someone else. Nietzsche said, "Man is something that must be overcome, not other people, not your circumstances, not the world. Man, the version of man that measures itself by what other people think of it. The version that needs the approval of the crowd to feel real. The version that performs its own life for an audience it invented. That is what must be overcome, not through force, not through willpower, not through becoming a harder, colder version of what you already are, through a different relationship with the need for approval. That's it. That's the whole thing. And it sounds simple until you try to go 1 hour without consulting the crowd, until you try to say something true without first checking whether it's the kind of true that will be well received. Then you understand why Nietzsche called it an overcoming. You don't speak anymore. Part 2, the approval. Think about the last thing you posted, not the content, the moment before, the specific calculation that happened in the 2 seconds before you press send. Who's going to see this? How it's going to land? Whether this version of the thought is the right version, the one that sounds like you, but also sounds like the version of you that other people can handle. You didn't post a thought, you posted a preview. You don't speak anymore. You preview yourself. The Overman is the one who has stopped previewing. Not because they don't care about people, not because they've become indifferent, because they've found something more real than the preview. The actual thought, the unedited version, the one that existed before the crowd got to it. This is not about social media. Social media just made it visible. You've been doing this your whole life, adjusting the story you tell based on who's in the room, managing the temperature of yourself, deciding which version of an opinion is safe enough to say out loud. The audience changes, the performance continues, and here's what that costs. You stop knowing what you actually think until you've already consulted the imaginary crowd. The thought arrives, and before it can be yours, you run it through everyone who might hear it. And it comes out the other side slightly different, slightly safer, slightly less you, every time, for years, until the version of you that existed before the consultation, the first version, the unedited one, is so rarely present that you've stopped noticing it's gone. Nietzsche called this slave morality, not an insult, a description. The morality of people who define themselves by how they're seen, who measure their value by the crowd's reaction, who need external permission to feel legitimate. The slave doesn't have chains. The slave has an audience, and the audience is always watching, even when the room is empty, even when no one will ever know. Even in the decisions you make completely alone, you check what the crowd would think. The crowd you invented, the crowd that doesn't exist, the crowd you've been performing for your entire life. They have opinions about everything you do. They are never satisfied. They move the line every time you reach it, and they don't exist. The moment the crowd goes quiet. Part 3, the direction. Here is what no one tells you about stepping out of the performance. It's not freedom. Not at first. It's silence. The specific silence of a room where the audience has just left. You say the honest thing. You make the choice that doesn't optimize for approval. You stop previewing and just speak, and then nothing happens. No validation, no feedback, no signal from the crowd that you got it right. Just the thing you did, and you, and the quiet. That quiet feels wrong. It has the texture of failure, of having said too much, gone too far, been too unmanaged. The instinct is to fill it, to add something, to soften the edges of the honest moment until it's acceptable again. Most people walk back into the performance at exactly this point. The silence feels like failure. It feels like no one is watching because no one cares. It feels like you did it wrong. Too honest, too direct, too much of the version that doesn't edit itself. So you soften, you add the joke, you walk it back, and the crowd returns. And it feels like warmth, but it isn't warmth. It's the performance resuming. And the relief you feel is the relief of someone who almost left the stage and didn't. You know this relief. You felt it dozens of times. The slightly sick feeling that comes after you almost said something real and caught yourself in time. The gratitude that no one saw. The safety of the retreat. That feeling is the cage closing. And it feels like relief because the cage is familiar. And familiar for most people is close enough to safe. The Overman is not the one who never feels the silence. The Overman is the one who learned to stay in it. Not because it gets comfortable, it doesn't. Not because the need for approval disappears, it doesn't. But because something else becomes possible in the silence. Something that can't happen while you're performing. The thought that is only yours. The choice that doesn't require anyone else to confirm it. The version of yourself that exists when no one is watching and is still worth being. That version has been there the whole time, waiting in the silence you kept filling. Nietzsche didn't say, become the Overman. He said, man is something that must be overcome. The verb is ongoing. The direction is the point, not the arrival. Every time you say the true thing before you've checked it with the crowd, that's a moment of it. Every time you make a choice in the silence, without waiting for the signal, that's a moment of it. Every time you stay in the discomfort of not being seen long enough to do it anyway, That's a moment of it. Not a transformation, not an achievement, a direction chosen again, every day, in the small moments no one will ever see, especially those, because the crowd isn't watching, and you do it anyway. The crowd is still there. It doesn't go away. The habit of consulting it, the reflex of previewing yourself, doesn't disappear because you noticed it, but noticing is where it starts. Not here, not in a video. In the next moment, you have a thought and feel the pull to check it with the crowd first. That moment, that pause between the thought and the preview, that's where you choose, not once, every time. The direction isn't a decision you make, it's a decision you keep making in the small moments, in the quiet ones, in the ones where the crowd would never know the difference, especially those. Not a destination, just the moment you stop asking the crowd who you are